2016, what a year. Somebody said that all answers in history books and future will just say 2016. So much has happened, and property has not been left out. So this week, we have a year in review.
Yes, hello, welcome to the Property Podcast. Oh, as my Christmas treat, I get to introduce us. So I'm Rob D, and with me is Rob B. I never get to say that, but thank you for being with us. If you are listening to this as it comes out in the in-between Christmas and New Year period, you are hardcore. We salute you. Thank you for continuing to listen to the podcast in this downtime. We thought that this would not be the week when you'd want us to get into like a line-by-line review of what's in a Section 21 document or something like that. We thought this might be an opportunity for a kind of a quick, bigger picture look back at some of the main events of the year, because it's a good time of year for looking back and looking forward. So we're going to do both of those this week. We're going to take a look at what's happened in a very memorable year in general and in property, and also at some of the things that have happened to us and in our businesses. And we're going to do a little bit of a look forward as well. So no specific news story this week because it's all news, really. And let's start by looking at some of the most important events of the year, that being things that have happened to us.
What a good place to start, Rob. Well, fortunately, it's a subject I know well. It's been a great year. For ourselves, at least anyway. One of the big things that happened this year, and I'm sure it's benefited many, many of you, is the new Property Hub website. It was okay, the old one, but we have high standards, so we spent a lot of money and a lot of time bringing that website up to the beautiful standard that it is today, and we are going to continue to work on it. But if you just listen to the podcast and don't take advantage of the Property Hub, go and check it out. Loads of free courses, loads of friendly people talking and giving advice, and it looks beautiful now as well. So make sure you go over to the Property Hub. But that's a really big win for us this year, a complete redesign of that website. It wasn't just like, changing a few colours here and there. A complete redesign has made a big impact, and the feedback we've got has been brilliant. So thank you. I know so many of you are enjoying it, but if you haven't yet, go and check that out. Link to that, the traffic on that website, and the members of the Property Hub, in this year alone, both have doubled, which is crazy. It wasn't a small number where it started from. So both to have doubled is absolutely fantastic. And again, talking about doubling, the magazine, the Property Hub magazine, which I know lots of you subscribe to because I see the numbers, those numbers have doubled too. So this year as well, the subscribers to the Property Hub magazine have doubled. Clearly, it's something people enjoy for the numbers to be jumping up that high. If you're not reading it yet, make sure you do. And we've just hired a features editor as well. So our team around the Property Hub magazine has expanded even further. And we've got some big hitters in terms of writers joining the magazine next year as well. National press stuff. People that you read in the most respected newspapers are going to be writing for the Property Hub magazine. The lineup is already ridiculously strong. I mean, we've got Rob D in there, but it's going to get even stronger in 2017. So one to watch out for.
Yeah, it's been a heck of a year in terms of all that kind of thing. And I remember a year ago, around this time, we had a planning meeting. We kind of held ourselves to the fact that we weren't going to do anything new in 2016. We were going to just focus on improving and growing what we had. Because if you've been listening to the podcast for a long time, a surprising number of people do discover it, go back to episode 1 and start going all the way through, you nutters. But if you did, you'll know there was a period where it felt like every week we were going to go, and we're doing this, and we're doing this. And it was all great stuff, but we thought it was time to really kind of consolidate what we had and make sure that everything that we were doing was top quality and was reaching as many people as possible. And it seems like that's worked. I feel like the quality of everything that we're doing, including the magazine and the website, has improved, and by focusing on those, it has all doubled. Another thing that's grown is our meetups. We've now got over 35 meetups, and this time last year we had like handful. Like we'd really only just started it the previous September. So within 18 months, we've grown to over 35 meetups around the country. And that is purely down to the hard work of Abby and Vicky here and all our meetup leaders around the UK and beyond who've made that happen. All we do is turn up to them occasionally. And it's brilliant to see how we've just kind of come up with a concept and people have really taken that and run with it. And it's grown into something that's reaching hundreds of people every month. Speaking of getting out and about, one new thing that we did do this year was our first Northern Summit. So we took the summit concept that we've been doing successfully in London for a couple of years, and we went to Manchester, which was absolutely brilliant. We had a great day there. It was really interesting to see how people think slightly differently about property and where it fits into their lives up there. I know a few Londoners came up to it and used it as a chance to scope out Manchester at the same time, and they found it really useful. So that was great. We're going to probably be doing something similar again next year, although we haven't committed to it yet. And in general, across all our businesses, we've just been growing in terms of the people we're reaching. We've been growing in terms of our teams. We've been doing lots of hiring this year. And everything's really flying. So we're going to come on to the external stuff. But for us, it's been a really great year.
Yeah, certainly no moans here. I mean, Rob and I could indulge ourselves and carry on this podcast and talk about all the wonderful things that have gone right for us this year, but we won't. But there are things outside the world of Rob and Rob that have happened too. Yeah, incredible. So, where should we start? Brexit? Kind of a biggie. One of the biggest talking points, if not the biggest talking point of the year. Big event, but as we talked about throughout the year in the open days that we had and the webinars we put out, that it's also a big opportunity if you know what you're doing. With education, this is one of the most exciting times of the property cycle. This is not a time to be fearful, especially if you know what you're doing. So Brexit was a blow to many people, a great result to many others, but as far as property is concerned, it's happened. And now you can make a decision whether to take advantage of it or be punished by it. It doesn't really matter if it's right or wrong. The opportunity is there. Rob and I will be putting out a brand new course on the Property Hub very, very soon, in the next few weeks, so look out for that, which talks about the future of the property market. And obviously the events around Brexit very much shaped that. Now, I say Brexit was the biggest piece of news this year, Rob, but there have been others to rival it. And of course, Mr. Trump in America has made a big impact by winning the US elections. Now, while this is big for headlines, I don't think it's a big headline for property. We're not expecting any big impact here. Maybe at a stretch, it might boost prices, especially if Donald Trump goes aggressively to boost the American market, because then it often has that ripple effect across the Atlantic to the UK. So if anything for property prices in the short to medium term, it's good news. But even that's a slight stretch because it's going to take time for him to put all those measures in place. So really a neutral event, a big event, but as far as property is concerned, a neutral one. But then not a neutral one, and one that, again, a bit like Brexit and Donald Trump, we didn't expect, was stamp duty changes. We thought after the tax changes last year, the government would leave us alone. How naive. And they introduced increased stamp duty for people with second homes and beyond, which basically affects buy-to-let investors. Not a great piece of news, new tax for anybody, but really this one hammered the people who invest in the southeast. And I think that trend that had already begun, where people had started looking up north in places like Manchester, Leeds, Liverpool and beyond, was accelerated, because now to try and make buy-to-let work in London is even more difficult than before. So big events externally, outside the world of Rob and Rob, there was a few things going on, and some will have a big impact on the property market, and others are just big headlines, but definitely a big year, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And in property terms, it makes sense that on a global scale, it was the smallest of those three, but in property terms, it's the most relevant, was the stamp duty. For me, is really strange. It feels like a long time ago recording it now, but it was a really weird time with everyone trying to get in before the April deadline. March was just absolutely nuts. I remember a lot of people stressing out about trying to get their purchase or their transfer of the property to another entity through in time. Solicitors were having a very interesting time of it. It was just bonkers. And then the next month, everything absolutely dropped off a cliff, and there were very few transactions as while everyone had a breather. But then after that, things went pretty much back to normal. I was expecting that slowdown to last for longer than it did, but that wasn't really the case, with the exception of very expensive properties in London and the southeast, which, as you said, Rob, have been massively affected. Like 3% on a £100,000 house isn't going to make or break an investment case for most people. But by the time you get up into the realms of 500,000, million plus, it does make a huge difference. And in some of the data that's coming out for house prices in London, which we'll talk about more next week, you're starting to see the effects of that. So that policy has had an effect, as well as giving us a rollercoaster couple of months.
So that's 2016. I think we'll all agree it's been a classic. There's a lot happened. But that's done. It's dusted. We can't change it now. We can only plan for the future. So what does 2017 hold for Rob and I, which may well certainly affect you and the world in whole? And there's going to be a lot more that happens in next year that's going to affect property. So let's have a look at both. But of course, Rob, let's start with ourselves.
Yeah, of course. Well, one thing that we can say is going to happen is some new books. I've been telling as many people as possible that I'm going to be putting out a book in the first half of next year because I want to be held accountable. And it's, as we've talked about before, it's a great trick to make sure you've got somebody holding you accountable and asking what's going on, and make sure that I'll look like an idiot if I don't do it. One of the things that didn't go right for me last year was that because of many, many other events, I didn't get around to writing the book that I wanted to. So that is definitely going to happen next year, and you can play this snippet to me if I seem to be wavering on that at any point. A distraction to making that happen could be the fact that we're going to be doing a lot more on social media with the Property Hub. It's really weird how many people and how many businesses use social media to build something really powerful and reach lots of people, and we've not done that at all. We reach a lot of people, and we've built something that I think is quite powerful by other channels, but social media we've basically completely ignored. And I know that Rob B and his team have been working behind the scenes on a master plan. So if you are the kind of person who is regularly tweeting, Instagramming, Facebooking, pinning, is that still a thing? I don't know. If you're doing any of those things, you might spot us doing the same and putting some more useful things your way through those channels as well.
And I think that's key. It's all going to be useful. The stuff like in the Property Hub will be the same through social media. So it's not going to be, Rob and Rob give away everything through their own channels, but social media, blooming heck, they don't half sell. It's going to be all content that's going to benefit you. So make sure you check out our social media channels. We'll link to them in the show notes, which this week is /2016 review. So go and check it out there. But that's not it, Rob. There's more for next year. Our biggest announcements are...
Not going to be talked about right now. But we can say the announcement is that there will be announcements. So I said earlier that a year ago we said to ourselves, 2016, nothing new, consolidate, grow what we've got, work on making everything as great as it can possibly be. The shackles are off next year. We've got some things in the pipeline. They are big things. They are super duper exciting. And we're not going to say anything more about them right now. Haha.
Yeah, not because of you, dear listener, but there's lots of people out there who like copying what we do. So we will launch it in a big way, and rest assured, it will all be to enhance your property lives. So look out for that. And as we said, plural announcements. There's some big things happening next year. And that's on it. Of course, we're busy, but the world will keep spinning next year as well. Well, I hope so. And while that happens, things will happen in the property market outside our world. Yeah,
they will. In global terms, there's some stuff going on next year. I don't know if 2017 is going to be as exciting as 2016. Got to say, if this year was a movie, I would have been gripped. I'd be giving it a high rating on Amazon because, like it or not, it's been bloody exciting. But next year, lots going on. And in property, there's a couple of bits going on. One of the things that's going to be interesting to watch is the new rules around mortgages that are coming into place in just a few days. This is that mortgage lenders basically have been told by their regulating body at the Bank of England that they need to get a bit more stringent about the lending that they're doing, primarily in terms of stress tests. So what always used to be like sort of making sure that your rent covered 125% of your mortgage payment is now going up in some cases beyond 125%. Some lenders have put it up to as much as 145. And they're also testing it at an interest rate of at least 5.5% rather than whatever your interest rate actually is. So that's another way in which they're trying to keep a lid on borrowing. That is, again, like the stamp duty, something that's not going to make much of a difference in many places, but is going to make it very, very tricky to make the numbers add up in London. And then in September, there's a deadline for another set of recommendations to come in, which is around portfolio landlords and the underwriting criteria around people who've got multiple properties. So it's 4 or more mortgaged properties is the number that they've come up with. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. I think the mortgage market is going to be one to watch. There's going to be loads of really interesting things happening, both as lenders kind of try and put these rules into place and are constrained on the one hand, but are also jockeying with each other to try and win the business on the other. And then in the limited company market, so many people are now going down that route. There's going to be loads more products coming in for those and the market getting a lot more competitive. So there's a bit of a tension in there between lenders being really keen to compete and win business, but also them being slightly held back by their regulator. So I think we'll see some innovative products coming in that are going to give us all a whole load more choice. So that's going to be very interesting to watch. That's something we know about, but I think it was Donald Rumsfeld who did the whole quote about the unknown unknowns. And basically, it's whatever you don't know that you can't see coming that really messes you up or causes you to change course. That's what we know about. There could be plenty of other things that we don't know about because we've got another budget coming up. Who knows? In fact, we've got 2 budgets coming up this year because they've moved it. So we're going to have the final spring budget and then we're going to have the first autumn budget. So 2 opportunities there for some interesting curveballs to be thrown our way. I think that we've probably had all the drama and I can't see anything really major happening.
Rob.
I know, I feel bad saying it. But it's just when you look at how things are, that in terms of the transaction volume falling and the market in the southeast starting to flounder a little bit, it seems like a strange time to really put the boot in and do something else. But, you know, we've said this before and we've seen very strange things happen in the past as well. So we'll be talking in more detail about what we see happening next year in the next episode. But yeah, brace yourself. If the last couple of years have taught us anything, it's that anything can happen.
It can, and we'll be throwing our weight behind some bigger and bolder predictions next week in our predictions episode, but more on that shortly. And a resource of the week, a reminder of one you should be using at this time of year. But before we do, how can we not? In a time of the year when it's all about appreciation and love and fondness, we absolutely have to read out a review. And this week, it comes from Mila. Thank you, Mila. I found a podcast about a year ago and became a huge fan straight away. I managed to listen to all the archived footage, so I was not missing out on anything. And I'm glad the American guy is gone, sorry. For those who are recent listeners and haven't listened back, listen back and you'll find out what that means. It's a great source of information and first-hand knowledge. Rob inspired me to get back on track with property investment. I was in my mid-20s when I first bought my property, and I still own it and rent it out. But that's in Poland, where I'm from originally. And since moving to the UK, I've become a homeowner, and now I'm ready for my buy-to-let here. Keep up the great work. You're fun. Well, we try our best, although actually we're probably a bit geeky and dull. But thank you for calling us fun. That's very generous of you.
And even if it's not in a positive way, I'm glad the memory of poor Rick lives on. Okay, so onwards to our resource of the week. And this is more of a reminder about a resource. I think, Rob, this is one of the first resources we created, but still one of the most popular, and that is our goals course.
Yeah, no apology here for reminding you of something that already exists because it is so important. On the Property Hub, we give you multiple courses for free. So yes, we've mentioned this already today, but it's free. We're not making anything from this. So go to the courses section of the website and have a look for the goals course. Goals, as we've talked about on the podcast, a been a while actually, so I think we're allowed to say it, goal setting has massively changed. Certainly, I'll speak for myself, my life, and I know it's had a huge impact on yours, Rob. But goal setting is such a powerful tool if you use it in the correct way. Now, once a year, writing some goals down on a bit of scrap paper or saying them out loud and then forgetting about them isn't going to get you anywhere. But if you follow the system we talk about in this training course, then you have a great opportunity to accelerate your success. Big claims, but I can only talk from first-hand experience that it works. So go and check that out. Go to the website. It's a perfect time of year right now. It's between Christmas and New Year. If you're listening to this a few weeks late, don't worry. You can still start it and do it early January or mid-January or even February. It doesn't have to be the start of the year. Go and check it out. Watch it. Use it, more importantly. And then let us know how you get on with it. Be very keen to hear what success you have from setting your goals.
Yep, in the past I've done it the wrong way and I've done it the right way. And let me tell you, the difference it makes is huge. So well worth checking out. So that is it. We can put a pin in 2016. We are done. Next week, we are going to be back. No change there. Who knows what's going to change next year, but one constant is going to be the Property Podcast on a Thursday morning. We're going to be kicking off the year in traditional style with our predictions for 2017. Always a bit nervy. We've got to go back. We've got to listen to our episode from last year, see what we predicted, see how close we got, and then get bold and make some more predictions for the year ahead. So we started talking about that a little bit earlier, but we're going to be going into that in depth and talking about what the next 12 months has in store in next week's episode.
It's exciting because we hold ourselves accountable. So we don't just throw some predictions out there and put them away. We are recorded, so you can go back and listen yourselves, but actually we dig out the archives from the year before and play what we said. So it's a high pressure episode each year for us, and I don't know, Rob. As always, I'm confident, but we've got things wrong before. I'm sure we'll get things wrong again, but I'm really keen to hear how we did. So that'll be a great episode. And of course, we've talked about starting your year off on a high with the goals course on the Property Hub website, but you can take it a step further, and I think you should. What should they be doing, Rob?
They should be getting along to a meetup, of course. Another constant for next year is going to be the meetup on the first Thursday of every single month. We've got 35 locations for you to choose from, so there's bound to be one near you. All you need to do is go along to thepropertyhub.net/meetups. That's where you'll find our big listing of all of them. You can find the one you want to go to. You can book onto it for completely free. And what better time to get along to one than on the 5th of January, which is going to be the first one of the year. So if you're feeling the pain of going back to work that week, you can go and numb that pain slightly by going and talking excitably about property with lots of nice people. You can go and compare goals with others. You can go and get inspired. You can exchange ideas. So much great stuff happens at meetups. So make sure that you get your year off to the right start by getting along to one. That's thepropertyhub.net/meetups.
Well, that's it. As Rob said, another year done. And thank you for being with us this year. We've done nearly 200 of these now, which means we've been going for nearly 4 years. And we are not planning stopping anytime soon. We've got loads to talk about. You ask us loads of questions each week on Ask Rob and Rob. So there's that to do. And plus, the government keeps us busy with so many chops and changes. And there's property's a vast subject that we'll be powering on through 2017 with so much more. But remember, reflect on all your wins from 2016, on the things you didn't do, take lessons from them, don't beat yourself up, and make 2017 your best yet. Don't start slow, attack it, have a great one. We wish you all the very best, but until next week, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks for listening to the Property Podcast. For show notes, all our past episodes, and to leave a review, go to thepropertyhub.net/podcast.